Okay, welcome everybody. This is a video about Silent Hill F. And today I am joined by Green Sea to talk about our experience with Silent Hill F, which is the first in the entry where it takes place in 1960 Japan. And we're going to introduce ourselves and talk about our relationship with Silent Hill series as a whole. Hello, Green Sea. Why don't you tell us about your relationship with the Silent Hill series?
Thanks for having me, Sam Swang. Yeah, my experience with Silent Hill it's like I played and finished the second one, three, four, The Room, and Homecoming. My first experience of Silent Hill was four, and it's the I personally I liked it. I think I might be unpopular, but I think the story and the idea was quite unique, different from the previous ones, and the character, the monster design was awesome, and the soundtrack is actually pretty stand out. It's composed by the music composer from the franchise, Akira Yamaoka, right? So I think compared to the previous ones, kind of unfair because it has a uh, isolated stories, which is not really have anything to do with Silent Hill. So, and I understand that people are turned off by the combat and the environment design, which is pretty horrible. But yeah, Silent Hill 4 was my not favorite, but first experience of the franchise. What about you, Sam? Which ones are your favorite Silent Hill?
Well, I believe you were the one that actually got me into the Silent Hill series, Green Sea. And looking back on it, I have completed Silent Hill 4, Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3, and Silent Hill Origins on the PSP. I think all the Silent Hills that I've played so far has a very interesting plot and design. Um, some of them obviously are standout, like Silent Hill 2 and 3. I also didn't mind Silent Hill 4. I thought it was a very interesting take on traveling between the portals through a tunnel. And that kind of brings us to Silent Hill F in a sense, which is also a entry in where the story actually does not take place in Silent Hill, but in 1960s Japan. And based on some of the reactions, just off on the trailer or the initial reveal trailer, there was a lot of discussions about how this one was going to go. Green Sea, what is your initial reaction to the Silent Hill F trailer?
I believe the trailer, the first teaser, was released like roughly a year ago, and uh, to be honest, during the I think the Silent Hill showcase, that is the most that is excited me the most, rather than Silent Hill 2 remake, because I am a longtime follower of Higurashi and Umineko, which which is all written by the Ryokishi 07, and I'm very familiar with his work, and knowing Higurashi and Umineko, which is When They Cry series, which they have anime shows, stage play, and to be honest, that excited me the most when the first teaser came out. How
Yes,
about you?
I believe you and I had a discussion about that when the initial trailer came out. That's what you were most excited. I initially thought it was an interesting concept because it's not just so much about a foggy environment as something that we're used to. The initial trailer showed off this new direction in which these flowers are blooming all over their environment. It has taken over schools. It has taken over buildings and inside the homes, which is something very interesting. It's
It's a very
definitely
yeah, it's
it's
very
definitely
different
a
than previous ones.
departure.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different departure from the usual foggy, and then it transitioned into Silent Hill's nightmare world where the environment becomes rusty and dirty and broken. It's an interesting take, and I think it's a nice departure. And you would think something along the lines of flowers blooming would be the opposite of scary, but when I actually see how the flowers are blooming and spreading, it is quite uncomfortable, is the initial feeling I felt.
Yeah, I believe the red flower in the Japanese culture things actually means something like a death or departure spirit, which actually the author of the Umineko and Higurashi, Ryukishi '07, actually written a new VM or author or game about it. Well, not new, but it came out after Umineko, which is called Hikabana. Hikabana When They Cry series. Um,
Mm.
that one didn't interest me much because it's it obviously have share the same element and structure of the story, but that one is I don't want to say too much, but that story is way too dark than Higurashi and Umineko. It's kind of it's to the point that it's uncomfortable reading it. So yeah, I already know by the looking at the teaser with the flower thing. I already know it's a very dark and I wouldn't say disgusting, but uh, just hard to swallow that kind of story.
Yeah, very interesting. I myself have, I guess, a little bit of familiarity with Ryukishi '07's work. I've read a few chapters of Umineko, but based on the setting and the
Geez, sound
story,
like a who forced you into reading it.
I kind of felt like this is more ties along with his older stuff, which is Higurashi, which I unfortunately did not read. Moving along, uh, how did you feel about the gameplay mechanic? I understand that the combat was a hot topic issue before the game was released. Some people have noted that it was more like Souls-like or Bloodborne. What do you feel, Greensea?
For me, I first of all the combat element of the game is never for me. It's not the focus of the game. I understand that people might think the game becomes too Souls-like, uh, action and heavy focus on the dodge, counter, or that kind of thing. I didn't have a lot of experience with Souls game, so I don't really like that kind of games. Not for me, not for me. But in this one, I it's a new try. I mean, they try new some stuff for the new series. I can understand that. I can appreciate that. And after complete the first one, I felt the combat system is all right. I felt like all right. It has its balance. It's not too action um, focus. It has decent amount of a story and exploration and adventuring, that kind of thing. So you won't feel that it's an action game. It's an RPG game. So I don't really have a problem with it. And the game it gave you enough resources and skills to you know to avoid being killed often. So I think it's very uh, it's easy to pick up, and I don't think it's a big problem for it. And the most fascinating aspect is the story. So I just focus on the story and the character progress than the action. What about you, Sam?
Well, I actually really enjoy the combat mechanic. There's a lot of elements I've enjoyed. Um, I would like to start it off with the durability of different weapons. This was a mechanic that they had back in Silent Hill Origins, where the weapon don't actually last forever. They do break, and you do have to rely on different weapons. For me, I found that some enemies are easier to deal with heavier weapons, and some enemies are easier to deal with lighter weapons. With you are able to maybe deal a little bit lighter damage, but multiple light damage in quick successions. I also like the fact that the game gives you toolkits in which you can repair your weapon, which I have done quite a few times in my first playthrough. And lastly, the focus attack on different weapons is amazing. I really enjoyed it at the cost of the sanity meter. And I think that's such an interesting component. It adds a different layer to your combat. And as a series as long as Silent Hill, the way that they came up with this mechanic, I think, is brilliant. And it's always pushing the boundary of how you approach combat within the series. And like Green Sea mentioned, sometimes combat is not the necessity. It is to choose whether or not you should avoid combat or sometimes just uh, altogether move on to the next area. Um, so I really
Yeah,
enjoy the combat.
yeah, it's almost like a what's it called? Survivor horror game, like a old classic Resident Evil, where you have to manage your skills and resources and choose to fight on this or not. So it's a lot less punishing, I would say, than people first think of it. So yeah, I think it's a very good balance between the fighting and the non-fighting part. So
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Now, what did you think about the leveling up in terms of your health meter, your sanity meter, and your stamina? I also understand that this is a first in the series. What is your take on it?
just like I mentioned earlier, it felt like a survival horror game, like a Resident Evil. So or maybe the Souls game. I didn't have much experience for that. It like to bring new audience into this franchise, I guess Konami have to make some change, and Souls game, or Souls like that type of gameplay is really popular. Uh, whether it's like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or Ghost of Tsushima, that kind of thing. Uh, I felt they try something new, and I appreciate the attempt. And I mean, it brings out the multiple gameplay experience. Like when you start a new gameplay, start a new run, you always have some advantages. So yeah, I don't think it's a problem, and I don't. I think it's a good thing that they have stuff. So it helps you, like it brings out like a emergency thing, or like do you want to take the risk to build up your inventories or armories or skill set, and you can sort of have like a freedom to manage your resources and skills. And I think it's a good attempt. I think it's a good addition to the game.
Yes, you bring up a lot of good points, especially for upgrading your stats for the new game plus runs. And like you said, with other references to like Resident Evil, inventory management is key gameplay as well. I've definitely come across areas where I had to backtrack a lot to really determine what I should be offering uh, the items for offerings for to get upgrades and stuff. And what is your experience in terms of upgrading? Did you prioritize your health? Did you prioritize sanity or stamina?
For me, or at least my first run, I have these things that I have to constantly save a lot because I am afraid of encounter new stuff or miss out stuff. And regarding on the offering thing, I believe I spend most of them uh try to get the new Omomori
Okay.
to expand the thing. So because I to be honest, I just uh spread out, I guess. Sometimes on Omori, sometimes on the health, and because I know that you will like the items are limited, and most of the items or half of those things that you offer for the praise can also heal you. So it's like a option that you can choose whether you want to save as a health item or you want to sort of upgrade your experience, so to speak. I my uh, I mostly just spread it out, but spending more on the building up more Omores because I know some of them are pretty OP, like the ones that restore health after you kill the enemy, that kind of thing. I know
Hmm.
that would be very helpful when you are in the situation that you have to fight a lot of monsters. Save you time to, take the health item. Yeah, that's what I did for my first one.
Interesting. I guess I would say the way I upgraded Hinako is probably the same way you did. In the very beginning, I prioritize on obtaining additional slots for the Omomori. Later on, I think towards just after the halfway mark, I couldn't get any more additional slots for the Omomori, so I started upgrading my stats. I think for all health, sanity, and stamina, I probably did it about 3 times. So
Oh, that's a
again,
lot.
I'm not sure how this is gonna translate into the new game plus run, but hopefully it does do something.
And also, I know it might be a bit late, but at this point, we only complete the first one, so no spoilers beyond that. No spoilers on the new game plus thing.
Exactly. And I think
Mhm.
that's a good intro into the plot of the game. And again, this will be our final warning, I guess, for anyone who has not played Silent Hill F. Uh, there are some very interesting story and how it's laid out. So once again, if you've not played Silent Hill F at all, please do go out and get a copy and play Silent Hill F. It is a very interesting story. Um, yeah, anything to add before we start discussing the plot there, Greensea?
Well, the only thing I would say is that if you are a follower or reader of Higurashi and Umineko, there are a lot of callbacks, or not callbacks, trademarks from Ryukyushi 7. And I just wondering, like, if, like, I don't know, if you have anything familiar with that you saw during the game that
For
reminds you
me,
of Umineko or Higurashi. Probably not, right? Because you didn't read or watch Higurashi and you have only like a first one or two chapters of Umineko experience.
I think I've only gone through three. I didn't even finish the third chapter of Umineko, but no, this one I remember watching you and another mutual friend of ours watching Higurashi. There were some parts where I understood. You and I have also had follow up conversations about Higurashi, where you kind of told me the more um, important plot points, and I can definitely see a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah,
Um, what
it's
I
not just
what I
the
w- yeah.
elements, but the writing style and the pattern and the tricks, the key tricks of the writing is reminds me a lot of Higurashi and Umineko, where when we dive into spoiler plot things, I will point out. But yeah,
Excellent.
it's very
So why
interesting,
don't we?
very exciting about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just dive right into it. The beginning of the game. Uh, Once again, you are portrayed. You're playing Hinako Shimizu, and this is the second time the Silent Hill series has used a female protagonist. And with that going forward, it also kind of has a bit of a interesting point of view in the sense that Hinako is not like the other main protagonists of the Silent Hill series. She is a schoolgirl, and she doesn't have combat experience or abilities. They do tell the players that she is athletic and not the traditional Japanese girl.
Oops, sorry for my pouring water. Continue. I was pouring water.
Yep. So, yeah, what is your take on Silent Hill F taking this direction?
Well, first of all, I believe Hinako is so strong. It's so OP compared to all the Silent Hill characters. I believe you see in some of the memes about Hinako. You know, like, well, because this games they add a lot of action elements to it, so Hinako is very strong. And think of her as like a high schooler girl who used to be on the track team. That's she's a very strong character to play.
Yes, and her character, I understand, gets more complex as the game progresses. And in some aspect of it, where she transitioned from the real world to the nightmare world of the Dark Shrine, um, I agree with you on some aspects. Yes, she is quite different from the other leads of the Silent Hill series.
Yeah, she's have like a complete move set, and from gameplay point of view, and you have to know that this is based on 1960s in Japan, so like you cannot wave a gun and shoot enemies like that. You have to have a lot of the weapons like a pipe or a knife or an axe, and it's kind of refreshing and because to see like a high school girl have such a moveset, and she's not afraid to see the monsters and to confront them. Yeah, it's a very unique experience from the very beginning of the game.
Now, would you say this is also along the same lines of Heather Mason? She is also around the same age group, and she also has this rebellious attitude. But I think, in contrast, both Heather and Hinako are actually rebelling for very different reasons. One is going against the traditional norm of the 1960s women tradition, where once they come of age, they get married off to another family. Whereas Heather is more
Or
like the rebellious, kind of like not following. Um, I guess in the setting of Silent Hill 3 is kind of finding herself. in the world.
Well, if you want to compare Heather to Hinako, they are actually quite different from what I see. First of all, Hinako is sort of during the whole game, she's felt that she's being tied down and she can't escape because her family and her society force her into this kind of a role for women, which is supposed to be serve as like a housewife, that kind of character. Where Heather, first of all, she within the 30 minutes she can get a gun, so it's a lot less threatening and scared that to you make you feel. And in
Exactly.
Heather's story, that she's like she and her father or try to running away from the cult, the order. It feels like it's different approach that Heather, it's on always on her way running towards somewhere. Where Hinako, you don't have that option to just run away. She's forced to into this kind of a scenario or situation. She can't escape. So that's why she's constantly felt that, there's no escape, there's nothing I can do. It's so desperate. I think there's a difference between those two characters.
Yes, you do bring up a very good point, and I might add to that the Hinako actually has have her school friends that actually kind of, at least she has people in her life that are around the same age group that kind of help. I'm not sure if this is treading into spoils territory, but influence her in terms of her decision making towards the end of the goal. During the first game play, your first run of the game, it is very heavily implied that Shu, her partner in this crusade, has been supplying her with red capsule medicine, which basically draws out a conversation you would have within yourself. And I personally think is probably a lot of the
Ooh,
reason why she is able to go back and forth in between these two worlds. What do you
ooh,
take on that, Green Sea?
ooh. You want to jump to the end game story that quick? You don't want to talk about something happening in the middle?
I
um,
personally think the red pill is throughout, if I am correct. In the beginning of the story, you are given these red capsule, and throughout your journey, you find these red capsule. Um, we don't necessarily have to dive all the way in, but I do think it's a key component. It is like a sprinkling of information that's always there. And it's only until you play the game to the end of the first run that you realize how important those medicines are. But what is your take on that?
yeah, I think it's a great writing that it hides the key or the important crucial information right at the end, even though that during the game that you might or might not pick up what's happening. And it has a lot of journal or documents shows that the the red capsule, the red pills that were supposed to heal your health and sanity, are not as reliable as you think. That most of them, or all of them, given you by Shu are homemade, sort of. So, and it's fascinating, and I like this kind of story writing because it hides, or it just masks the the what's it called, like the story's core problem in the end, which is very Higurashi and Umineko. and uh
Hmm.
and it's like it's very hidden. It's under the pattern that constantly take the pills just to heal, and without your subconscious knowing that it's something sketchy or something sus about it. And I don't know if you finish the new game and attempt the new game plus thing, because after you're starting the new game plus, it tells you the endings and their requirements, and the very important ones to achieve all the other endings is to tell you not take the capsules throughout
Yes.
throughout your new the completely your new second run or third run. So like come to think of it, like there's all it builds up like a temptation for you. Like during your second run, you saw a red pill. Do you want to take it or not? It kind of you kind of make the player feel it as Hinako. Like if you want to achieve the new endings or clearer truth in the story, you have to stop and avoid taking the red pills. Make like it kind of make me feel like a druggie, like should I take it? Should I not? Oh, it's like you're fighting against yourself to take the pills. So I think it's a very fascinating writing that like make you almost feel as the same as Hinako.
Yes, you bring up a very good point.
Which caused
I love
more which also raised difficulties in the second round because you cannot take the red pills to heal now, so you have to manage your resources more carefully.
exactly. And I think what's very interesting was in the beginning of your playthrough, you think that these medicine are good, and it is only until the very end you realize that the medicine actually is not very good. And
Yep.
you now have a new gameplay where you don't rely on the medicine. It will pose a few problems. I definitely rely on them pretty heavily in my first half of the game. It's only really when they start introducing bandages and first aid kit where I stop relying on them as much. Um, that
Yeah,
also will come into
I
uh,
saved them, and I that's why I offer almost all the food items because I have enough pills. Which is
yeah.
really fun if you think about it.
Yeah, so it's interesting now because all those other items in which would improve your sanity, your stamina, and all that stuff, that was all offered to upgrade.
Yeah,
And I think that's kind of what the gameplay is um, coercing you to do because the second gameplay is going to be much, much different if you want to achieve a different outcome. And I think that's not just writing and brilliance, but that's also make a game more replayable. And I think in this day and age where you have a new game like Silent Hill F, where it takes a lot of time to develop and it costs a lot of money to develop, and when the players get it, they want to invest in a game where you don't finish it in within like under 20 hours and then that's it. So the fact that the gameplay replayability is the second run through is going to be so much more different than your first one, I think is brilliant. I think that I'm going to really enjoy my second run through of the game where I will be relying more on the items that provide additional stamina or sanity because I didn't do that the first time.
yeah. I think from the game design point of view, I think it's very good that very creative to increase your new game plus difficulty without increasing anything. Like it didn't increase the monster's damage or health. It didn't lower your weapons and stuff. But by simply suggest that in case you want to achieve different ending, and in the story point of view that you want to see the truth, a clearer situation that you didn't Hinako didn't fogged by the influence of the drugs. You have to not take the drugs, not take the health items. I think it's very good that very uh, unique way to increase the difficulties without actually changing anything.
Hmm. Now, moving right along here, we're going to talk about Hinako's schoolmates, Shu,
Oh, good
Rinko,
lord.
and Sasuko. I
Yeah.
understand that there is a lot of hate for Rinko. We'll save that for later. We briefly touched upon Shu, but let's start with someone who really didn't have that much more influence and is encountered actually quite early and killed off quite quickly. Let's talk about Sasuko. What is your feeling about Sasuko?
Uh, Sakuko, I think, I believe her story will be written in the or will be completed in the New Game Plus because in the at least in the first one they really didn't have a lot of information or documents about her, other than the fact that she's sort of a loner or a little bit autistic, and she's into the shrine maiden thing, and really desperately want to make friends because everyone in school thinks she's a weirdo or bully her, that kind of thing. So she spend most of the time in the school talking to the rabbits, and I I felt that that's enough background or backstory for her, but she's not intertwined with the core groups that much, like Shu or Wrinkle, and obviously she's gonna uh, complete the story, or more information will come out during the new game plus. But Sakuko, I think it's other than the fact that her boss designs are really cool. Usually you don't think of her as a core or important character as much as Rinko or Shu. But
Yes.
I can see
Yeah.
that they're gonna buff up her stories in new game because it's already have signs. Like there's several doctor's notes about her and symptoms or like the fears of what she has. You know, she fears of a dark. I can see in the new game plus that they're gonna buff up like a injecting more story about her.
Definitely. Now, I'm actually a little bit surprised, and maybe this is just my own way of interpreting it. Um, I kind of feel like Sasuko reminded me of the blue hair character from Higurashi. Uh, Again, could be my own interpretation, and maybe
Huh.
because
Rinko?
Sasuko is with the older tradition of the Shrine Maiden traditions, as per her family. And based on very little of what I know from Higurashi, I think that was kind of where I draw my connection between those two. And again, you know Higurashi more than I do, and I could be completely off. But what is your take on my little connection there?
I'll say they're only similar by their profession, you know, which is like a shrine maiden or priest, that kind of thing. Other than that, that's two characters on two different. I would say two different planet.
Okay. Well, I
That's
guess.
how different. Because Rika from Higurashi, if you know that you know her importance in the story, she's actually the main story of that series. It's just
Okay.
that in the few like Sun F in the few early episodes, she seems like the character that she seems like uh non-important or more on the Japanese cultural local folklore thing, but deep down Rika is much more crucial of the stories in Higurashi. which I didn't see that in Silent Hill F. And the only thing she's important, I would say, is that she really want to make friends with Hinako, and not purely because of she likes her or something, which we read some notes during the Nightmare World that she's actually have some. You can see she's jealous or to to try to own her friends, try to have her friends and nothing more, try to make
Hmm.
Hinako stay with her. That kind of obsessive mentality. But other than that, yeah, I don't think it's completely two different. It's like on two edge of the planet that's very far apart from each other.
Okay, interesting. Moving along, we certainly have to talk about Rinko. She has gotten a lot of hate throughout the internet, and I personally see where her character is portrayed. I can understand based on some of the notes we found. She is kind of like a class president, and it's her responsibility to take care of the class. So she kind of has this leadership mentality. And when someone in her class, like Shu, cares more about Hinako, she obviously wants to be with Shu, and it's very obvious during the playthrough, and is jealous of the relationship that Shu and Hinako has. Um, it's also very evident that actually a lot of these characters are very two-sided. They have the side where they present themselves in society, and they have their more inner sinister side, if you will. And it's very evident in the gameplay where Rinko would just very happily like to erase Hinako's existence once and for all. Um, what is your take on that?
On Rinko,
Yes.
uh, I don't know whether I should say I kind of lost the part where you talk about Rinko, so I don't know if it come up on the recording. But let's pretend it
Okay.
does. Let's pretend it does. Then on Rinko, I felt she's heavily focused in for the core members of the characters. I mean, she has a whole puzzle around her, which is the scarecrows uh, session in the rice field. I believe she's very, at least in the first run, her motives and her thoughts are quite obvious. I mean, you can already tell by her body language and conversation between Shu that even in the documents that she's very jealous of Hinako because of the closeness that she and Shu share, and constantly bitching about why you guys are so close, why are you talking like boys and boys, and then, I guess that's why you guys are not a couple, that kind of thing. So it's very, the jealous one in the group, and we don't really have so much spend much time with her because in the story she's always hang on Shu, and for the brief moments that we share with her, either in her house or the school, it's like she's avoiding you, and she doesn't want to spend time with you in the same room. And during the conversation where she and Shu talking about Hinako is dead, and I believe there's a much more deeper context hiding behind the New Game Plus that causing her to dislike you and to distance you throughout the whole game. But I I felt that her boss fight was kind of odd because it showed up at the, I believe, wrong location. Like why her boss fight show up at the place? Spoiler. But I believe that it will obviously clear out in the New Game Plus, like provide more context about why she's there. I have a little bit guess, but I won't say it here because it might be spoiler. But yeah, that's what I felt about Rinko, and she's definitely more memorable than Sakuko, and it's actually make me curious about what really happens between Hinako and Shu, because obviously they are hiding something from Hinako from the first game run, and treat why Shu treat Hinako different, and despite that they are hiding something or they are not telling Hinako something. uh, I'm just curious to see what really happens after Hinako stopped taking the drugs and maybe can see or hear the conversation or the cutscenes more clearer to see what really happened.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and that kind of leads us into Shu. Um, for
Eyeball.
for my for my perspective, Shu Shu's in there in quite a bit, but I think it's the game's purpose for him to not make a very prominent presence in the first run. Now he may show up more prominent and have way more backstory than the first game run, possibly. But you don't actually really know much about Shu. There, like you said, there's a lot of information that Shu is holding back. And I thought we were gonna get more information when we get to Shu's residence. But as you know, that actually didn't happen. And by the time the game is nearing its final couple chapters or areas, Shu is killed off in both the real world and in the nightmare world. So, other than the medication that he supplies Hinako, we don't know too much about Shu.
It's a thing that this it's a very reminiscent of Omineko or Higurashi for the matter, that it's a very unreliable narrative for in this case for Hinako, because there's a lot of things that she assume or she maybe it's in her head that will happen. Shu, like after the end game information, you can see his motive in his story and his relationship with Hinako, which is quite obvious that Hinako has to be married to someone, arranged marriage, for some purpose. Whether it's her parents forcing her to do it, or it's a tradition during the time in Japan, or maybe both. And obviously, Shu has a thing for Hinako, but because maybe they know that Hinako has to marry someone, that sort of split them up and like "Hey, let's be friends, let's be partners, let's be eyeball." And it's really it's kind of like a shocking to me when I first encountered two shoes in Nightmare, where Hinako just chose to let Shu die, because I can understand the treatment of Sakugo and Rinko, because maybe Hinako realized that they're jealous of her or something. But Shu, I at that point I don't feel that she has motives or objectives to do that to Shu. Then, uh, obviously, everything happening in Nightmare is just like a metaphor, symbolism she really didn't kill Shu, but maybe just kill off him in her mind because, oh, I have to let you go. I have to let go of this uh, this childhood friend, which might turn up to be a thing because I have to let you go to marry my husband, that kind of thing. So
Now, do you think that is probably why the reason Shu actually didn't get a boss fight? Because keep in mind, Rinko and Sasuke both have their boss fight, and we can kind of foresee that in the relationship in the first run through. Shu, on the other hand, doesn't have a boss fight, and once again, to reiterate, uh, he doesn't really have a presence, at least for me, in the first game through. And then I think it's quite interesting that there's not a whole lot of characters already established in this game. We are going to touch on two more characters, but it's interesting to me that Shu actually doesn't have a boss, a manifestation or exaggeration, if you will, in the Dark World. But
it definitely could be possible. I mean, there are only a handful of characters in the game, and you don't just create a character and give him non-important roles. You have to see that characters become something or become some sort of importance in the game. So the fact that Shu is only one or two characters in the game that doesn't have a boss fight or boss encounter yet, it's obvious or it's much more likely that he will play some kind of a nightmare representation in the nightmare realm that you may have to fight him. And I was just surprised that you didn't have to fight Junko.
yes, and since we're on Junko, let's bring that up a bit. Junko's presence is important, regardless of how many there are, and quite frankly, I think there is too little. We understand that Junko is a very important character to Hinako. At the same time, towards the end, honestly, I am actually very confused. Um, as you know, towards the end of the game,
About what? About
Hinako,
Junko's motives or her
about
action
just
or
Junko's character in general, because towards the end of the game, Hinako is fighting herself. There is the Hinako that is the traditional and is following the family tradition of being married off. You fight her as the final boss in your first run through. And Junko is there telling her, the traditional Hinako, to kill off any resistance, any part of Hinako that is refusing to going along with following
I,
through
I
with a marriage.
I find that part very easy to understand because the whole game, both Hinako's parents and Junko, which is her sister, are trying to sort of convince her to fit into some role for women in Japan during the time. You have to get married. And throughout the whole time where Hinako is trying to rebel and refuse to fit in that kind of role, it's she showed up to say, "Oh, you have to stop. You have to give up this fantasy of you being, I wouldn't say independent or but like refusal to into marriage. You have to give out and just follow everybody's order or expected you to get
Expectation.
married.
Yeah.
Yeah, expectation. So I think it's very easy to understand because at the end that she saw Hinako throwing a fist or still getting crazy and start, you know, berserk into the thing. And she's telling him, "You need to stop this. You need to get married and be a good wife." That kind of thing. That's why throughout the whole game or later part of the game, Hinako sees Junko as not enemy but opposing her because of the difference in ideas.
That is very true. Now, do you think Jinko is an antagonist in the game? Because in the
Uh,
beginning of the game, where you have no idea where the story is going, you see Junko as a supporting character. So for her to be almost on 180 from the beginning, again, it's very interesting. And I saw Junko as someone that is supporting you, which is kind of surprising to me when we got to the end. She is supporting the traditional Hinako to get married off. And she is very opposing of anything that is stopping that, including Hinako taking the pills and not following the tradition. And I believe I had called this, and I'm not sure. The game hasn't told me if I was right or wrong, but I think Junko is actually dead.
yeah, that's the first thing that you. First of all, Junko is the first character Hinako met in the game, and for the journals for characters, Junko's face is always covered, and she never show her face or front face until the very end of the game. So a lot of expectation for or speculation that Junko might be dead because or from the different from Hinako's point of view, Junko might be dead, but not literally. Like she views Junko during the character description. She's saying something very good about Junko. Oh, big sister. She's always so good to me until she got married. So maybe in Hinako's mind, Junko is dead because she's got married. In the marriage life, that kind of thing. So, oh, you're dead to me, that kind of thing. So I don't think she's literally dead. So yeah, and like for the first encounter with you and Junko, she's supportive. She's very yeah, she's supportive you and stuff. Maybe that's because Junko thinks that or Hinako that she might think Hinako might be acting normal or according to their plans or orders, normally, and married someone. And it's during the late games or middle of games that Junko realized, or Junko the character realized Hinako is not trying to do that, and she's trying to, causing a lot of problems and stuff. And that's when Junko becomes like a antagonist, tell you or threaten you, don't do this. You need to do what I said, or else. I think that's the character progress of that character, Junko. Which
Hmm.
is
Yeah,
which is funny. Junko, the name always reminds me of Danganronpa. I can't see Junko normally.
exactly. Well, I'm still holding off to the belief that Junko is dead. I will not be disappointed if I'm proven wrong in my later run-throughs. But ever since I noticed that her face is always covered up, and her character description in the journal has always never shown her face, and when we finally do see her, she is wearing an owl's mask, and the skin tone is always showing a gray to her skin. So I still believe that she's actually dead. And
It
again,
might be a symbolism thing, right? So yeah,
yeah,
but you never know.
I'm happy I'm happy if proven wrong. But that one will again, once again, when we play more of the game through, we'll find out more. Now, not to drag this on further, but we do have to touch on the last main character, the Fox Mask. Um, he is a integral presence when you enter the Dark Shrine world. He is the guide, and he is someone you end up marrying at the end of your first run through. The Fox Mask is a very interesting character. He has a goal, and it looks like he succeeded in the end. But that ending of the first game through also kind of threw me off because he literally disappears. Um, he is nowhere to be seen within the last, I would say, almost 40 or 50 minutes for me. But after the ceremony is completed and you don't see him anymore. What is your take on the Fox Max character in general, Green Sea?
Well, like from the first minute you encounter the Fox Max, that he's he treats Hinako well, and he helps her, assists her during the nightmare sequence. But you are being told constantly that Fox Mask is not to be trusted, to run away, to get away, escape, that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's obvious that he represents the real life husband of Hinako that she's forced to marry into. Uh, I believe he I don't think the Fox Mask has ill intention to Hinako, and during the nightmare sessions, uh, I mean, it reminds me of the traditional Japanese ceremonies where they have to bow or they have to offer something, that kind of thing, which is, I guess, in Hinako's mind, in her nightmare, it's manifest into this, you know, puzzles and dungeons and monsters attacking. And I find it very interesting that in the second to last nightmare, where you have to, you know, uh, offer your body, your soul, your mind into the Fox Mask, and which in the gameplay sense, you have to. Hinako offered her body and her soul and her mind, which is it's a very very subtle way to imply the you know you need to like the marriage vows and stuff, and
It's
and and
definitely very symbolic. I agree with you. Now,
yeah, it's
might I
very.
just add one note to that? It was, it is very graphic, fellow listeners. It is definitely very graphic during the rituals. And when I found out that when they installed, installed was probably the wrong word, when they amputated her right arm and then attached the wolf arm, um, I
No,
was
that's
actually,
wait, hold on,
I was,
Sam. That's
yeah.
not a wolf arm. That's a fox arm,
Oh, yes, yes, I stand corrected. Yes, it's a fox
which
arm.
is very straightforward to what's happening at the time. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I stand corrected. A fox arm. And I was quite livid. I didn't know that by inheriting the fox arm, I was not able to use the weapons that I had accumulated in the
Yeah,
Dark
yeah.
Shrine,
That's a good
which I
weapon
had, which I had really loved
attached to
because
it. Yeah.
there was no
It's
weapon durability or anything. Now, don't
yeah,
get
it's a
me
very
wrong,
good.
the gameplay for the fox arm is definitely very interesting. I
You mean
might even said that it crosses the line of going into God of War when you can activate the super fox arm.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people online compare it to a devil trigger.
Yes. Devil Trigger or whatever the God of War term of that is. It definitely is a feast to behold.
Which is also
Well,
symbolism.
exactly. And I think that kind of brings us to one of our last points here before we wrap up today is the enemies and the enemies design, including bosses. Um, I
But
will
not really
be
limited to monsters.
I will be
Normal
the one.
monsters as well. Yeah.
Yeah, normal monsters. I'll be the first one to say this. With a series as long as Silent Hill, it definitely is going to be quite difficult to create something as iconic as Pyramid Head. You can't go really anywhere without showing Pyramid Head and not have people recognize it as a staple in the Silent Hill series. But I actually really enjoyed the designs of the enemies and the bosses of Silent Hill F. What is your take on that?
Uh, I think it's the best thing in this game, and you can see first of all they didn't use the Pyramid Head, which is a brand of franchise. But I felt that in the later games, after the Room, the fourth one, Pyramid Head has been overused because they put it in every game when the originally is only from the second game and it's manifest from James's inner thoughts or demons to punish him. So I don't think he should exist in any other games. But but then the Western publisher or not publisher, the developers doesn't really have any original ideas. But in Silent Hill F, I it's it's like a combination from Silent Hill 2 and 3 for me because every single monsters or mini boss it's sort of from Hinako's mind that she view like for example the obvious one will be the big fat one holding a knife and
Yep.
constantly shouting and stuff, which is obviously a indicator or represent by Hinako's father,
Yep.
because
Hmm.
that's how he always, holding the knife to almost hit Hinako with the knife and constantly shouting. So you can tell by that one example that every single monsters from the game is projected by Hinako's mind. Like the guy that chase you very fast, very very quickly, and when he attacks you, it's almost like flipping, like a flip up movement. Um, Almost felt like it's kind of like those sleazy men that try to flip up the skirts, and
Mm.
when he sort of grab attack you, she just lick you.
Yeah,
So I think for Hinoko's mind, that's like the nightmare version of man. Oh man,
that's
and this
very
man,
interesting. Yeah.
man only want one thing, that kind of thing. And for the monsters that like a combination of a lot of human heads that always spew up, liquids and stuff. It felt like like gossip people, because like
Yes.
during your first sequence entering the town, like people gossip you already, whether it's your stuff, any topics, but it feels like people like gossip you and talking shit about you behind your back.
Exactly. It's like words are venom. So
Yeah.
that is a very good metaphor.
uh I'm sorry. The most obvious one is the mom or the pregnant thing, and and
Ah,
and
yes.
and and I think there's a man holding the mom or the pregnant woman on his back.
Yes,
So
it looks like it. The design looked like there was a character
the
underneath
husband
all of the.
supporting, like the husband supporting the wife, that kind of thing, and for Hinako, who's really resent on the marriage that becomes a normal um, housewife and giving birth, that's that's in her mind that, oh, woman giving birth, disgusting, that kind of thing, which is very similar to Silent Hill 2 and 3, where the characters are based on the the monsters are based on characters in their thoughts.
Right. It's based on their imagination or what have you,
Yes,
their thought about
what could
procreation.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always been a very interesting theme in the Silent Hill games. 2 and 3 is strongly a very good reference point for both of them. Um, what do you think about the boss's design for Rinko or Sasuko or even Hinako at the end?
Ring. The first boss is Sasuke, and she turns into a shrine maiden always in her mind that Hinako wanted to see her, or I think it's cool, very cool design that combined with the monster design and with what Sasuke wants to be. Rinko, I didn't feel as strong or as memorable as Sasuke, because throughout the game, Sasuke wanted to be like a shrine host or shrine thing, but I didn't see or I didn't read or get the information that Rinko wanted to be a wedding host thing, because I read on the her documents is that she only always wanted to be like a class captain or class
Yeah,
yeah, but I didn't see why she will turns into the thing, the monster.
it
I mean,
looked
it's a cool
more
boss,
like
right?
a. It actually looked more like some sort of shaman in some sense with the initial when the wedding ceremony was happening, they were waving um the paper staff around and then it later
Yeah,
became something else. That was also a very interesting choice because I didn't picture that with Rinko's image. But the fact that the boss's design was later more heavily implied of fire, which I guess matches Rinko's passion and the heated
mm,
jealousy that she has for Hinako, made
yes,
sense. There was also the spawning of the, I guess, little minions of Rinko during the boss fight was also
yeah.
quite interesting. Um,
She's
I
been yeah
personally felt that all these designs are really great. They fit the story really well. Um, Based on very limited what I have done, I understand that there are more bosses that we have encountered that was not in the first initial game through. And
oh,
we might do a part two of this later coming down when we have finished. But lastly would be the Hinako boss fight. Um, it is most likely the longest boss fight out of most of them because there are 2 stages. Um,
they are.
yes. So the
Oh,
initial Hinako boss fight was with the first fox arm. And then second, she goes into her evolution where she spawns another fox arm. And
yeah,
I
that's
will say
subtle.
this that that's probably along the lines for me as iconic as something is creating something as iconic as Pyramid Head because essentially Hinako's whatever name that they have for her boss fight during that one and Pyramid Head has with James. it is a self-reflection of the character itself. Um,
Yes.
I enjoy the design. The fact that Hinako goes through these rituals and obtains a fox arm, and then it turns out that the boss fight that she has to fight at the end also has one, but not just one, but two fox arm is very interesting to me. It's a great design, and yeah, I enjoy that boss fight. It's probably one of the more iconic boss fight in a Silent Hill series for me in a long time.
Yeah, because yeah, it almost feel like you're fighting yourself, right? But yourself as the one that submit to marriage and submit to the role that she's supposed to be. Like one of the boss's moves is to kneel down and then doing the kind of praise moves, like
Like a prayer.
yeah, like a prayer.
Mm.
I don't know how to describe. And then you will take a massive damage. So
Yeah,
that probably will indicate that or symbolize that, oh, she's praying during the ceremony or ritual and she's submitting to the marriage life, and that hurts Hinako a lot.
yeah.
This kind of metaphors that happens a lot, and I believe that because you got the achievement that I didn't get, which is beat the Shiro something, the boss without getting killed. I actually getting
Yeah,
killed. I actually got killed, and but then so I sort of respond because goes like, I can't give up. I won't give up, that kind of thing. I believe you have like two or three times or chances to respawn to keep fighting
I
him,
see.
fighting the boss. So like your will and your stern uh you know will to fight against this.
Determination. Yeah,
Yes, yes. And I find it very interesting because like it's rarely that you fight a final boss with kind of chances and response without using items. So
exactly. Now, you
yeah.
bring up a very interesting point. The I don't know how your fight went with the final boss. Um, but I had a crap ton of health items when I was near the end of my run. Um, they they were abundant near the last two areas where you make your way back to the town for the last time and then make your way back to your residence. There was a lot of health items. So by the
Well, there's a lot of
time
fights.
I
There are a lot of fights, right? So
yeah, and I did not take that much damage during those two areas,
well,
which is
you're
very
supposed to.
interesting.
Yeah.
You're supposed to, yes. And the fact that the bandages and the first aid kits are not something you can offer to get points is probably a blessing because in that two runs, I think I could have upgraded the stats or anything much more or get more Omaris. But yeah, I survived the fight with about four first aid kits left. I probably had one or two more bandages left. And it's a case where because I don't know how the game is going to end, I thought that there was going to be something after. So that's why I saved a lot of my health items. I saved a lot of toolkits. And the fact that it ended was a reminiscent of how I played The Last of Us, which I held on to a lot of my bullets and whatnot for the guns that you collected. And if anyone played The Last of Us, you know how difficult it is to get the bullets for those guns. And by the end of it, I pretty much meleeed my way through The Last of Us. And it turns out that I didn't get to use any of the bullets for the special guns. So that's the case for me during my
Yeah,
last fight with the boss.
it's very normal for players playing RPG games to hoard. You're hoarding
I get.
items, weapons. I might need it for later bosses, and then bam, you finish the game with 100 bullets and stuff.
Now, was that the same case for you during your fight?
I think it's yeah, I have like 9 or 10 bandages
Oh my
and
god.
a few more first aids. Obviously, I use a decent amount of it during the final boss fight. But yeah, I have a lot of health items. It's not supposed to be a very difficult game, so it gives you tons of resources. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I now realize there's a character that we didn't talk about, or it was a very minor role in the first run. But I'm sure it will play a more significant role in the new game, and I might guess that what that role might be. It's pretty
Okay.
obvious.
Okay.
It's
Well,
the
you
yeah.
can bring
You
it
want
up.
to talk? Yeah, it's the
No,
boy.
I'll actually allow you to bring it up because I'm actually drawing a blank of who you might be referencing. So please do go ahead.
It might not. I mean, again, if the listener play the new game plus or have more knowledge than us right now, it might not be uh mysterious, mystery, but the character which I felt they introduced or at least mentioned, but didn't mention again after the ending was the boy in the playground.
Ah,
And
interesting.
after after a lot of documents you read during like a housemaid's journal where they mention there's a boy born in the fancy family and you have to keep your name because your name means prosperity or fame, that kind of thing. And
Now,
and
it's funny you actually bring this up because I don't know about you, but I actually collected all of the documents that was available, and I
yeah, I can see
got
that
the
in your achievement, yeah, too.
yeah. So I don't know if you know this. I can tell you, but if you collected all the documents, it's very clear who the boy is.
Or the boy who turned out to be, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's been bitten by a fox during the playground, and then he might have a scar or something on her face or something, and you encounter a fox mask, and the boy writing some letters to say thank you, Hinako, I thank you for saving my life, and then bam. Yeah, it's quite obvious that a good guess will be that the boy will turn out to be the man that Hinako will marry into.
Mm-hmm.
Which during the first run, it didn't present you with the connection yet.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
so so he will play a bigger role, and you might be right. Fox Max will be a boss in one of the endings because
Possibly.
he's your husband. Because he's your husband,
Yeah.
and he's not fighting against the whole marriage thing. So
Mm.
yeah, I like this kind of writings that if you don't really read all the notes, you might not draw the connections or not might
Yeah,
not present you straightforward. So yeah, it's
I
very
agree.
Higurashi. Yeah.
Now, to close off our little review here, in the grand line of the entire Silent Hill series, where would you place Silent Hill F? Would it be your new favorite? This is the new top dog. Is it somewhere in the middle? Or if you feel like this, like some of the critics on internet felt that there should be an entire separate IP on its own,
For me, I definitely put them among the first 4 games. Silent Hill. Yes, even definitely better than 4. Then the 4, it only has a few good ideas, but the story and the gameplay is really bad. 1, 2, 3. I haven't played 1 myself, so I couldn't make that decision. But I think Silent Hill F definitely, this uh discount the first game. I would say Silent Hill F is top 3.
Top
And
three.
for my own, I would even put it above 3, because
I
three,
see.
three, three story based a lot on the first game. It doesn't, and the gameplay is based a lot from the second game. So, like for creating creative story wise, 3 doesn't really have that much to stand out.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, I personally felt that this Silent Hill F is a great addition to the Silent Hill series. It's been quite a while for the Silent Hill fans to receive something as fresh as this, and I agree with you. It's definitely within the first 4 Silent Hills.
The top, the
Um,
top half of the franchise. Yeah.
Top half indeed. Um, I'm having a difficult time because I understand that the additional playthroughs is going to be different than your first initial run. So this may impact how I feel about it on a whole. But I think right now it is on par with Silent Hill 2. I don't know if the subsequent playthroughs for Silent Hill F is going to be better. I don't know if it's going to be worse, but I think it's on the same level as 2.
That's fair.
The
That's
the problem I have with 2 is more if you have already gone through your initial playthrough. I kind of felt like you've already received about 80% of the story. You've already kind of understand the whole gist. The cat's out of the bag. You understand the critical point. Anything I think additional is adding more to the story than it is. Whereas Silent Hill F, I feel like you only got 50% of the story during your first playthrough. And
that's also fair. Yeah.
yeah, so I feel that the more you play Silent Hill F, the more you're gonna get. And again, once again, this is a brilliant idea on the developers and the writers. Um, I've always enjoyed a game where replayability um, is adding more to your experience, and honestly, it makes you feel like you want to do the second run, you want to do the third one because you want the whole picture. And I think nowadays, in the games that are being developed or coming out right now, replayability is not necessarily something that a lot of developers think. They include a lot of side missions for you to do during your main run, but after the story, you pretty much done it and you're finished with the game. So with a game like Silent Hill F coming out at a time like this, I think it's going to be really appreciated. And the fact that it continues the tradition of Silent Hill series of having multiple endings, and it's not for the sake of just having a multiple ending in which, oh, it's a gimmick ending, or oh, it's a dog ending, or anything. This actually does ties into how the gameplay is going to be played on your second and third playthrough, and I look forward to that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a lot of games they created the new different endings just to expand the game time that players play. But I feel like this one, the new endings, not just new outcomes, but it unpacked a lot of information that was hidden, which I again have to say that it's a very signature from Ryukushi '07, where you see the first ending initial what happened, but you almost view this as an outsider aftermath, like during the ending sequence, the the police reviewing the crime scene where you know people are murdered during the marriage ceremony, and then like the murder suspect's a girl in 20s, which is like it's it's very very different than what you assume the game take place or what happened in the first game. And it's very Higurashi. Again, I have to reiterate that there's always a lot more hidden behind the initial run through. So it will be very rewarding to replay this new game or second or third run, because like a lot more information that you might like for all we know, the first run through of the game might all be in Hinako's head. Might not happen in real life. And what happened in real life? We have to play the second game to find out. And
Exactly.
like there's a lot of contradictions, like so like or contradictions, and it branch out a lot of thoughts. Like is what happened real in the town? How like maybe Hinako escaped the marriage ceremony and went back into the town. Like
That is
a
true.
lot,
Yeah.
a lot of implications, that kind of thing. So that's why I felt very, very interesting. And also, like in during the end, where like there's no reliable witness to witness the whole thing. Like everybody in the ceremony died, and your main character Hinako, is gone. It almost
Hmm.
reminds me. It almost reminds me of your favorite author's masterpiece, and then there were none.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that is our initial
Very
review for
exciting
the first
for
version.
the new Game Plus. Very exciting.
Yeah. And we'll definitely come back and do another one of these when our second playthrough is done. And I'd like to appreciate you for joining me in our discussion about this. It's interesting. And again, this game is open to so many different interpretation. And to continue the love of Silent Hill, I mean, like this has been a long time coming. If you are a true Silent Hill fan, this is, at least for me, a breath of fresh air. Um, and I'm glad that I have Green Sea here, who can also share his appreciation. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Do you have any closing notes you want for our viewers?
I'm just wondering, which one do you rate higher, this one or 2 remake?
I think I'm still gonna stick with my initial reaction. The second gameplay and the third gameplay, I think, for Silent Hill F is going to be crucial for my final decision. I believe that the Silent Hill 2 remake did do a really good job on what it's supposed to do. But for me, Silent Hill 2 remake and Silent Hill 2 are, at the end of the day, still two very different games. Um, some part of that, and again, we might do a video on that one too, if we get any traction with this. But I feel like Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 2 Remake are two very different games. Overall, generally, it's graphically more beautiful and more detailed. Uh, Obviously, hardware comparison and all that. But They are similar while being very different. And now it's difficult for me to kind of interpret that because again, Silent Hill F has very different playthroughs. We're gonna have to see. What about you?
Yeah, I just felt the this one's much more different than the previous ones, and I have strong faith into Ryukyushi 07 because I'm more or less familiar with his work or his two best popular ones, and I know that I know his writing will deliver, like shock, twist, and all those things that people outside of When They Cry series never encountered. So I'm just very excited. Like he is the reason I am interested in Silent Hill F. So yeah, I'm just can't wait for the new game plus and new game plus plus. The information that he's gonna unpack.
That's awesome. Yeah, I also look forward to that. Okay. Well, thank you so much for watching this video, and we hope you enjoyed it. And
Okay,
yeah, we will
thanks, Brad.
catch up
Yeah,
again next time.